The government shutdown officially ends and Bitcoin continues to do what it always does, shake out all market participants. Shortly after we got that government shutdown news, Bitcoin dumped massively, sub $101,000, and now we are seeing a move back up towards $104,000. What on earth is happening? In today's video, we'll be talking about exactly this, going over the recent Bitcoin price action and discussing how you should be navigating this market. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. So you can see that the US House passed the bill to end the government shutdown and President Trump signed the bill officially ending that government shutdown. So we are in the clear. The longest shutdown in history is over. Now, how do we operate from here? Because Bitcoin continues to shake out a lot of traders. You can see that we essentially dumped all the way down to sub $101,000. Then we reclaimed this level, and right now, as I'm recording this video, we are back above 103K, trying to surpass $104,000. If you're not a seasoned trader and you don't want to look for short-term opportunities here, I would simply wait for the market to do its thing. That's the best piece of advice that I could give you. The reason I say that is because Bitcoin is essentially just chopping around in this same range for the past few days. You can see that we dropped down to around $99,000. Then we came back down and formed a higher low, and I actually entered my Bitcoin long right around these levels. Now, we came back up. We started consolidating here on the weekend. We got another pump to the key zone of $107,000, got rejected. We were always expecting that this zone would pose as resistance, and then we came back down to the weekend price action, held as support, and now we're just continuing to chop around. So, in my opinion, Bitcoin is trying to form a base right around these levels. Can there be wicks lower? Of course. Will there be moves higher? Of course. However, I do think that as soon as we can get out of this range, the market will become a lot more clear. On the shorter time frames, there is no need to take on some aggressive trades, especially if you're an inexperienced trader. What I'm looking at here is for Bitcoin to reclaim $107,000, which to me would suggest further momentum to the upside. However, if we are to move lower from here, I still think that it could be a max bidding opportunity in this market. Wait for clarity if you're not positioned. By the way, if you don't believe me, yes, I did enter just sub $100,000. As you can see here on Bluffin, right at this wick, we formed a little bit of a double bottom. And as I've continued to discuss on the channel, this was an excellent longing opportunity, sub $100,000. I secured some profits, and right now I'm essentially just sitting on my hands with my stop loss at break even. If we continue to move higher from here, I will make some significant profits. However, if we move lower, already secured some, and I will be looking to re-enter in this market. Trying to long this current level is very, very tricky, and you want to wait for the proper confirmations. At this point in time, this price action is horrible for traders looking for swing longs in particular. We move up, we get excited. We move down, everyone panics. Now there's some bullish scenarios and there's some bearish scenarios that we do need to discuss, but I'd also like to show you this Bitcoin chart, which we've been covering video after video after video, and that is we continue to try to hold above that 50-week simple moving average. Right now, this weekly chart for Bitcoin is trying its best to hold this level. My invalidation for the bull market, and I will repeat myself here, is weekly closes below $98,000. So until Bitcoin starts closing below there, I'm not willing to shift my stance in the market. And because this is such a key invalidation level, this, in my opinion, is where you go ahead and max bid. I want to see Bitcoin hold above these levels, but we're seeing some continued chop. And something that makes me a little bit worried is the fact that we're seeing the White House come out saying, we are so back. But what makes me more optimistic around these current levels is the fact that over 5 million Bitcoins are now held at a loss, a threshold reached only during major market resets. Again, can we go lower? Of course, there's a possibility. But this signal typically marks capitulation. We saw it in mid-2024 and again in April 2025, both preceding strong recoveries. Now it's back at 5.6 million Bitcoins. Historically, this level signals exhaustion of sellers and the start of new accumulation. And you can see this on the chart. Every single time that the supply is in such a big loss, we do tend to form a bottom, and that is when Bitcoin goes ahead and moves higher out of here. Why would this change? Let's see how the price action develops, but right now, if you're not a seasoned trader, I wouldn't recommend being too aggressive with your positions until we have further clarity in the market. Now, of course, this is the 1 hour chart. I want to see Bitcoin on the daily time frames start closing back above $107,000 if we are to see more continuation in this market. Otherwise, there's a very strong chance that we just continue to chop around here. We grab some liquidity to the downside, we grab some liquidity to the upside before Bitcoin goes ahead and makes its next big move. I'm sorry I'm not telling you exactly where the market is headed now, but at this point in time, we just need to be patient. We wicked several times sub 100K, and on the 12-hour time frame, we have to consider the fact that perhaps this is a higher low. However, until we break out of this range, I'm not willing to say that quite yet. I remain in this market with my spot holdings, but I'm also looking to add leverage long positions if we do go ahead and sweep up these lows once more. Now, I saw this post on X talking about bearish scenarios, bullish scenarios, and I just thought I'd share. So, we rejected off the 107K underside. This is naturally bearish because 107K, if you remember correctly, is the pivot that essentially brought us to new all-time highs for Bitcoin. So that's why it's so important for us to reclaim that level. Now, we also have the fact that on all of the time frames except for the weekly, we are pretty much below those trends. The 4-year believers, OG whales, are starting to sell. We've seen this in the data. We're seeing continued relative underperformance. MicroStrategy premium has completely collapsed. We're seeing a weakening labor market. Equity indices do look pretty extended, although we do know that with equities, they can continue to climb the wall of worry. Now, the bullish case, we're at that 50-week moving average. You can see that we continue to try to hold it as support, and historically, when we manage to hold it as support, it does signal another leg higher. Every time we lose the bull market support band, at least in this cycle, we've managed to tap into the 50-week simple moving average, holding it, bouncing above, and then we go ahead and move much higher to print a new all-time high. Now, we also need to consider that we are in a weekly order block. The 90-day gold lag is hitting. Bitcoin divided by gold is at 2-year range lows, copper gold at multi-decade lows, stimmy checks, we have quantitative tightening ending as of December 1st, rate cuts, the economy is still technically growing, liquidity spike when the government reopens, which just occurred recently, Clarity Act, stablecoin adoption still set to add trillions. This we know is true. The ETH revenue burn is still strong on the back of stables, plus we have the institutional DeFi narrative, president's net worth and ego is completely tied to crypto. This is also a fact. We also have the IWM still looking primed to break out of the 4 to 5 year range. Many alts are already down 75%. This I won't really talk about. I don't necessarily think that alts will have these face melting rallies of millions and millions of percent. There's just too many altcoins in the market. But I do think that when Bitcoin dominance drops, ideally when Bitcoin distributes much higher, that is when we will finally see a little bit more relief, sustained relief in the altcoin market. We have the death cross, which usually marks bottoms. Now this is also coming up, and we're 0.5 standard deviations below the bottom anchored VWAP, which is where the last major bottom was. So in my opinion, based on all this and what I'm seeing on the charts, I do firmly believe that we are trying to form a base around these zones. Break above $107,000 with a strong daily close there, and at that point in time, I do think that we see Bitcoin move into the mid 110 to 115K range. Let's see how the price action develops. At this point in time, it's important to be patient in this market. And the last thing I'd like to look at, looking at the liquidity charts here, you can see that we did grab tons of liquidity to the downside. People are trying to catch the bottom here, but we also have quite a lot of shorts in this market over the past 48 hours. Over the past 30 days, you can see that we still have more cumulative short liquidation leverage in the market compared to cumulative long liquidation leverage in the market. Are we going to be seeing a short squeeze? Only time will tell. You know my key level. I want to see us hold back above $107,000 if we are to see continuation in this market. Otherwise, it's highly likely that we just continue to chop around as we've been discussing. And that sums up today's quick video. Bitcoin is still trying to form a base right around these levels. We have no clarity in the market, especially on the lower time frames. On the weekly time frame though, it does look like we are trying to hold above the 50 simple week moving average. That being said, we tend to get those wicks lower before we get confirmation higher. I am essentially sitting on my hands and waiting for the price action to develop, holding my most recent Bitcoin long from sub $100,000. If you want to join my free premium group where I post all of my own personal trade setups, remember you do have the first link in my description down below. DM me the word premium and I would be happy to onboard you into my free premium group. And that's that for today. I may be posting a little bit of a later update as well, depending on what the market gives us. So stay tuned for that. As always, you have my leverage trading tutorial right here. And of course, I'll see you in the next video.